gets to the west property of the parking lot, it goes north again. And it creates this dip in the land use pattern. The second page shows what our request is to fill that in with common R3 zoning so that that zoning pattern is consistent all the way along the north side of Sherman Way, across Tyrone and across the parking lot. So you can see that includes that northerly property that has a single-family home on it adjacent to the parking lot. That was also the church's property, and that's a part of this development. Okay, so what we've done in conjunction with the planning department is we worked out a land use plan here for a building that basically sets aside the northerly 50 feet of this property as open space. So this property has about 13,000 square feet of open space where 5,500 square feet is required. It exceeds that open space by almost 3 times. So, and it's green space. So one of the objectives there was to try to create as much buffer between the single family to the north and the development on the south. And I can show you, I'm just going to hold this up. So top of this board is north. This area here is where the northerly area of the property is, essentially where the existing single-family home is. The rest of this is a 72-car parking lot. Okay.
Eric, before you go further, is anybody who's from the neighborhood that's affected or any? Because what I did is I did a bit of outreach to see if anybody had a concern or had questions. And I did did an outreach, and I guess
nothing came back, right?
Nothing came back. So.
Okay, so just to illustrate this, you know, the valuable key to this is that this green space acts as a buffer. It also acts as a very, very nice amenity for this project. This is 38 units. If the density were to be maximized over the whole R3 area, you would have 43 units. So it's less density than what could be requested by design. The other feature to this that we worked out with the planning department, and this again speaks to the sensitivity to the single-family neighborhood to the north. This being the northerly side of the building, this is looking from Tyrone.
Tyrone.
Yeah. This area here that you see is blank right here. That's that green space area. You can all see that.
You get
This is the walls here. So that's 50 feet of green space. And then the building steps up 14 feet, and then it steps up, and then it steps up again. So it has a transitional height to the back, creating you know, a mitigation for any impacts that it may have had if it were a full 45-foot box going all the way to the setback. So that's our request, just in brief. And I think I'm going to leave it there, and if you have any specific questions, we can talk about details.
Anybody?
And it still remains church property?
No.
No.
No, they sold off the lot?
Yes.
They sold it.
Okay, got it.
Correct.
Q, this came out just fine? Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
And we did vote to bring it to the general board.
Yeah. So without objection, I make a motion, we adopt the language in 8I as is and give this gentleman his report. Yes.
So seconded again.
All right, let's, I call for the vote, Mr. Secretary.
Okay. President Thomas?
Yes.
Vice President Benjamin?
Yes.
Treasurer Hop votes, Secretary Hendry votes yes. Treasurer Hop is,
Is out of the room.
okay. Mr. Lazarevitz?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Skelton is out of the room. Mr. Kamara?
Yes.
Mr. Anand?
Yes.
Mr. De La Cuesta?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
No.
Abstain.
Abstain, okay, just a second. Mr. Luna?
Yes.
Mr. Marabi?
Not here.
Not here, okay. Ms. Raines?
Yes.
Mr. Robbins?
Yes.
Mr. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Askarian?
Abstain. I abstain.
You abstain, okay, thank you.
Coach.
12 aye, 2 abstain.
All right, pass.
We're good, going down the list. The funding of the reports was gone, was put through outreach, so 8J is taken care of. 8K, the VNNC to look into methods of working with the mayor's office on public and e-waste. There's nothing to vote on there. We will look into it and put something up on our website and tweet it out, etc. et al. 8L, we already voted on that. That was the Sandy Logan thing. Yes.
8M, brief comment if I may.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Lou Baglietto, and for the official record, I am a lobbyist for a company called Potential Industries, which owns West Valley Fibers, which is your local industrial recycler. Every day all the blue waste
Nice.
that
Very
you
good.
put out comes up to our facility, we sort it, we get it ready to go off to Potential Industries down in Wilmington, and then it's distributed to its end use in the world. We applaud you guys to get involved. If there's any way that we can help, I would very much like to offer our services if we can help you in education or any kind of outreach.
Send us everything you've got.
I will, and I'll also leave you some cards. I have tonight with me Gerardo Valles, who's the plant manager here.
Gerardo.
And he's been here for how many years now? Van Nuys?
Second year.
Second year.
Yeah, he's,
So we would like to help you, and then also, thank you for coming tonight. We are one of your stakeholders. We were very impressed with Mr. Castro from Van Nuys High School. If you know anything about our industry, manufacturing technology has revolutionized it. So we have machines that have lasers that send paper one way, cans the other way. So we'd like to support them. We are going to match up to $1,000, whatever the neighborhood council can provide them.
That'll work.
And so we want to be involved with our community. We're very involved down in Wilmington Neighborhood Council. Our Vice President, Dan Domnowski, serves on the Neighborhood Council. So we just wanted to introduce ourselves tonight, talk a little bit about an issue very important to us, and say, if you need us, we're here.
Perfect.
So I believe,
Nice to meet you.
who should I leave my cards with?
The secretary would be good, and then Carino, Maddie, did you have a question?
It's right here at the end of this.
Maddie, did you have a question?
No, I don't have a question.
Oh, you just want a card? Okay, so if you forward us your information, we'll get it up on our website, we'll tweet it out.
Secretary, we will find whatever we can from county, or from LA City Sand, because they've already created
Flyers are good,
and they
yeah.
have it available.
PDF flyers are
We'll
perfect.
take a troll through there to see what we can
Good.
find.
Real good.
Mayor's office has a lot of things to do.
Good
If you
man.
can send the PDF flyers to info@vnnc.org,
That's perfect.
it's
No
gold.
problem.
Okay?
Thank you. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out to myself or Gerardo, and we'll find it.
Good man, thank you for coming. Thank you.
I have to try to see if I can find Miriam.
Okay, you go try to find Miriam, that's very good. Okay, next up, 8N, explore all the possibilities of online voting for the neighborhood council elections in 2016. We already went over this. We can just leave it on the agenda and address it as it gets closer to
Did you discuss
us
it
speak.
today?
We did.
I have a public speaker card,
Yes, Mr. Wilkinson.
because it relates to your election, to your bylaws changes for your boundaries. And then I heard you ask, are there any other things we might want to consider in our bylaws? There's a lot of concern, people think online voting, oh my gosh, isn't this terrible? Well, I think it's actually going to be a good thing if the problems it might arise are dealt with. And when I was browsing through your bylaws today, I noticed that the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council is one of those councils, there are not too many more left, that have every stakeholder votes for every seat. Stakeholder includes community interest voters, which, as you know, are people who declare their own interest in this community, and it may be associated with an organization, be it a church or a nonprofit. I mean, I could say I'm a community interest voter because I'm very active in the First 5 LA Best Start program, which is to bring our tobacco tax money for kids 0 to 5. And we worked, it was for Panorama City north of the railroad tracks, and we worked to change the boundaries down to Van Owen because we explicitly, so that's an example of a community organization. But as soon as you go to online voting, can you imagine how many, I'll call it the lie, cheat, and steal stakeholder category. You just register some community interest, and then they can vote for every one of your seats. I would ask that maybe you consider that you have an at-large seat. Then if you have the community interest stakeholder restricted to your at-large seat, then you're not subject to like board takeover from people busing in from everywhere.
Yeah, that happens.
And I think that maybe that's more important than the boundary issue, because we're not really fighting on that. But this is a big deal
Yeah.
for online voting.
No, this changes the whole game.
And I would consider really thinking about that before the May 1st deadline, because that would enable you to participate in online voting without having to worry about that community interest.
Change the definition of stakeholder to having to live, work, or own real property. So there's no community interest stakeholder.
Oh, you can't do that, it's by ordinance. So since you
Yes.
cannot get rid of the city council decided community interest stakeholder, the city attorney and the box advice, both of them is, you have to have one seat available, but you don't have to have any more than one.
Okay.
So they come in and they would get a ballot with one seat.
It's the way around it.
Paul, your committee's gonna be busy next month, man. Hey, it gives you something to do, you won't be bored.
I know. Nice to
Not that you,
know.
not that you are anyway.
Wait, we'll have updates. We'll have
Yes,
updates.
Mr. Bailey.
We'll have updates.
No, we did not take action, did we, Howard? We
No.
just heard from who?
Lydia.
Yeah, Lydia. Lydia briefed us on it.
So Lydia will be voting on Monday on the, may I?
Yeah,
Sure.
The commission will be voting on Monday possibly, or they may defer it for a limited time. The department is putting strong pressure to action to be taken like last meeting, and anyway, so it's Monday. So here's the proposed contract. You've all read it, right?
Every
No.
word.
Sure.
Haven't even seen it.
It's been one of the links in the newsletters and things. So Tony's read it though, and I've read it.
Oh, I'm sure that's true.
And I've read it.
Tony does his homework.
All right, so I'm not going to take your time with this, but here's the deal. On Monday, a decision very likely may be made by the commission. And here's the points of the critical decision points, in my opinion, it's just my opinion personally. Number one, your council is self-affirmation. There are 54 neighborhood councils that are self-affirmation in the city, 42 are documentation. The difference is, when you come and vote, a person fills out a form under penalty of perjury, affirms that they are give you an address in Van Nuys, they affirm they're a stakeholder, they get a ballot, they vote. Documentation, you have to show who you are as a person, you're not Mickey Mouse, driver's license, something similar, photo ID, and then some proof of your stakeholder status with an address in Van Nuys. Those are the two differences. With the online voting, the registration will be done in advance. And what that means is people will be registering well prior to the election day, online, and as long as because you're self-affirmation, unless you change this, any address that they put into Van Nuys saying, here's my address, I live here, I work here, or whatever, but have to show no proof.
Yeah, that's not
So
good.
that's where,
And that's my concern. The
that's
department,
Listening?
the department is pushing,
Paul stands tired.
and again, it's my personal opinion, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but the department is pushing, but all the self-affirmation neighborhood councils into the, to put all the self-affirmation neighborhood councils onto the online voting, because they don't have to do any verification of documentation.
Oh, they want the easy route.
Easy route, low-hanging fruit. And then they'll
Yeah.
say, we'll put a couple of documentation neighborhood councils in there just to test it out. To me, that's backwards. The other thing is, in this contract, it provides for 85, an option of either 85 or 50 is one of the lower cost options. Nowhere in this contract does it say that neighborhood councils can opt in or opt out. Now, a lot of neighborhood councils have been pushing back for various reasons. Some of them are just knee-jerk, we don't want online because maybe and some are concerned about security. Some may be doing it because of the problem I just mentioned about self-affirmation. The department has stated that they will give the option to neighborhood councils. That's great. The problem is they have not asked the neighborhood councils to, in advance. So the commission is going to be voting on Monday, not knowing whether it's 5 neighborhood councils or 50 neighborhood councils. They don't know. And they've got a contract in front of them, and I understand there's going to be a revised version given to the commissioners very shortly. But that doesn't, where does that leave us? You're meeting tonight, you're not going to meet again before Monday. So my request or suggestion that other neighborhood councils, it's not to take a position for or against online voting. And personally, I'm for online voting, but I think there's a lot of unanswered questions and concerns. My best suggestion is any concerns that you have or questions that you have, either tonight or if it's expeditious, to feed it to your president and have him communicate those as a presidential communication to the commission, saying these are our questions or concerns or suggest whatever, and get that into the commissioners, because that's what we're encouraging neighborhood councils to do, because on Monday they're going to make a decision to approve either this or a possibly slightly revised version, or do what the Lank voted on Saturday, which was to request an extra month for neighborhood councils to be able to weigh in on this more, study it more, see the revised contract. Only less than half the neighborhood councils will have this window of opportunity to have agendized this and considered this prior to Monday's meeting. Every neighborhood council that meets the 3rd week and the 4th week of the month, unless they're really on top of this and they got on their February meeting, doesn't have that opportunity. But we've sent out the e-blast really the end of February, so that really only gave the first 2 weeks of March. So, but seriously, think about your self-affirmation issue. And Tony made a good suggestion. Although I still think there's a concern if people say they lived here but they didn't have to prove it, and they could still vote for all your seats. They could still do that now if they show up in person, but you know it's not going to be, people are not going to be emailing their high school friends from New York and college and from throughout the country or throughout the world to go in and register because that's where they're campaigning. So, you know, the idea of getting more people participating is a great idea, but it needs to be people who are true stakeholders. Just getting the numbers up that are bogus, and that could happen. I'm not aware. The other component is they're looking at telephone voting. Telephone voting is not using your phone as a keypad. It's, you know, push 1 for this option, push 2 for this option. And so in order to go through as many offices and people running, you can imagine how long it would take to do that on the phone. I don't think that's a recipe for success for this first time out of the online. It'd be better to do like the touch screen or, you know, use your mouse type thing. So please think about that. I'm not asking you to read, you know, the contract necessarily, although you could read the first 22 pages of the...
Could you read it out loud to us, please?
of the text.
Mayor LaGuardia.
Yeah.
So there are other issues, but I think those are the couple main ones that and you can weigh in as individuals too if you have strong feelings about this. Otherwise, it'd be really great if your president, if something came from Van Nuys to
my only issue would be that we have documentation of stakeholder status for registering for online voting.
Absolutely.
That would be where,
Absolutely.
that would be it. And
then communicate that.
if it pleases the council, I'm happy to...
It has to be in the bylaws.
Send out communication as the council president that we support online voting, but we would want documentation of stakeholder status.
But that would require documentation to be our default in our bylaws.
That's fine, we'll change it.
Well, we're
going to
that before, and then we switched over. We can always switch back. But between now and Monday, Paul.
Yeah, really.
Paul, you got some work to do, buddy.
Between now and Monday, I'll have read the first 22 pages of that report.
Once.
It looks like some good reading. But if it pleases the council, I'm happy to act on everyone's behalf and send a brief paragraph stating that we support online voting, but we support it with the stipulation that we want documentation of stakeholder status to register for online voting.
What about that community interest seat thing?
That's all well and good, but that would be with just the affirmation of stakeholder status, right?
You cannot ask for it. You have to change your bylaws.
Yeah, that's,
We're gonna change the bylaws.
so, between now and next Monday, I will, send a communication to Lydia and Leonard and the other three, right? It's a 5-person, seven, all 7 of them, that this council supports online voting with the stipulation that we need documentation of stakeholder status. So
Absolutely.
somebody just can't come and, steal an election. You should, steal it fair and square.
Did we all unanimously support the online voting?
Yeah.
This was just a discussion thing that we were
Okay,
doing.
but if you're gonna send, like, that we support it, if there's members that don't,
Well, where are we on that? Do we all support online
I
voting?
don't.
Okay, so, but if we did, I mean, I'm happy either way with this, you guys. If we're not for online voting, then that's fine
I'm on the
too.
fence on that. I don't know.
But if it does go that way,
It makes it
and we
too
wanna,
easy to have fraud, though.
I don't believe the decision.
How do you
has to be
prove
unanimous.
that they really live in the neighborhood?
As earlier indicated, it was more like they want to get a feeling of how
I vote by mail.
the board in general feels.
That's my time, and I went to Bama.
And then individually, we can each
Vote by mail might be okay, but,
statement.
because then you know they live in the
well,
neighborhood.
I'm happy to act on behalf of the council, or if everybody wants to contact the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners on their own and express their feelings on this. I personally, as just one council member, am for online voting, but could see how you could steal an election easily with this.
Why don't you take a
And,
straw vote?
We
Yeah,
could,
and frankly,
Just on the
Yes, Mr.
subject of
Hendry.
online vote.
if you did BBM, that would be okay. If you did vote by mail, because they have to have an address
do we have a
that
quorum?
showed they live in
Mr.
the
Henry, we
area.
definitely have a quorum.
Maybe the president could simply suggest put this over and try to have much more discussion from them. Not surprises like this.
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah,
sorry, that's just.
right now, because it's
That would be great.
Wait a minute, it's 11 o'clock?
All right,
Yeah, it's a long.
all right.
That's what Lang recommended, was 30 days, that they carry this over 30 days so neighbor council can wait. I don't know if that would give you enough time for another meeting, but.
Why don't we vote on it and then mail it out, and then we did our job? You write a letter on behalf of the council, that we
Well-
support it with the stipulation, it's gotta be documented.
Whatever pleases the council.
That pleases the council.
Some people don't support it. You don't support it, right? No, I don't need to vote.
Let's take a vote. Mr. Secretary, let's take a vote on it.
Yeah, I'd like to take a vote, because I think
Okay.
most don't support
I think
it.
most
You
of
don't
us would
support
like to
it?
go home tonight.
No.
Yes.
Do you vote by mail?
Vote by mail, yes, but to vote
You
online.
can leave at any time.
No, because you have no way to verify they actually live in the hood.
Did you want to,
Documentation. They have to document it prior to be able to vote.
Okay, well, if they did that, then it would be okay.
Yes, that's how we're doing it.
But that would require a bylaw
yes,
change.
Maria?
So me, I own, example, 3 nursing homes in Van Nuys. I could email or vote for every last one of these, not these, every individual, thank you, that's in my nursing home, here, here, and here, because I'm getting a check from
No, you can't.
Missouri. You know, so that wouldn't be Missouri, okay, the assemblyman. You know, so that really wouldn't even be fair for online voting. The individuals in my nursing home don't know what they're doing, you know, don't even know that I just voted for them. But since I'm always getting a big check from him, every last person in my nursing home is about to vote.
Yeah. But those
That's a very good
people-
point.
but the alarmist aspect of this, point of information that's being missed, is that we still have a youth seat. We still have a resident seat. So they would still have to be voting in people who fit these categories. It's not like all of a sudden, hey, we're just going to go put a vote and put a seat on that or
But the only thing I have to do is just call my friend boyfriend at the nursing home and say,
How is she
click
gonna
on
be commercial?
Is there a conspiracy to fill up the neighborhood council?
There could
Yes,
be,
there's
I mean, you don't
buses full of
know.
people around the corner right now.
It's a can of worms.
They're lining up.
I want to get it over.
They're lining up.
I'm sorry. Okay, Glenn, is there a possibility that, let's say Panorama City does online voting and Van Nuys doesn't? Is it gonna break down like that? Or is it gonna be citywide, yes or no?
That is a possibility because the general manager has stated, given the pushback, that that could be broken out. Right now, this contract says either 85 or 50 neighbor councils, and I've given you the numbers of how many are self-affirmation versus documentation. 85 is virtually every neighbor council that they choose that option, because about 8 of them do town hall selections. They're not part of the election numbers. The 50 would allow, but so far I have not heard anywhere near that number of neighbor councils saying, yes, we want to be part of this first effort. However, she has said that it will be up to the neighbor councils, and I'm hoping when the revised contract comes out, that there'll be some language in here that will allow either an opt-in or an opt-out. An opt-in means you would have to actually vote to agree to do it. An opt-out means you have to vote to get out. Either way, you'd have to vote. So to answer your question, we're really not going to know till Monday if they take action at that point in time. And my worst concern is, my worst fear is they adopt a contract, which is the way it's worded, it gives wide discretion to the department to negotiate further the terms with the company, the private company that's going to run these. And then it's out of the public realm as far as going to a commission meeting and making our case. Just like they eliminated vote by mail for any neighbor council that had documentation. That was done not in a public meeting. That was one person making a decision.
Right.
And that's what I'm concerned about here.
Glenn, that's why I want to be very clear. I've actually got in email the statement from the general manager that the general manager has the right to direct neighborhood councils to use online voting. She's just saying she plans on letting you opt out. So my feeling is that every neighborhood council should look at its own bylaws and protect itself in case you had to do online voting. You probably won't have to. But why not just get the bylaws set the way you want them to be, just in case? Then later on, when it comes down to it, you have another chance. You can say, as a board, yes or no. But at least if you do, you've got your bylaws protected. But after May 1st, you may be in a position where going online voting would be risky for you because of your bylaws. But you would really like to try it, but you can't because the bylaws didn't get changed. That's all I'm arguing for.
Sure, okay, how about this, because we want to be on record before Monday. If and when the VNNC decides to support online voting, we unanimously support the need of documentation of stakeholder status. So what that is saying is we have not taken an official position on whether we support online voting or not. But if and when we do, no matter what, we unanimously support the need for documentation of stakeholder status.
Okay, that works.
Not to be like splitting hairs legally and in the attorney world, but that would.
We'll work on our bylaws.
Yes.
Then we'll protect ourselves.
So if it pleases the council, I will take that position on behalf of everyone that we have not decided whether or not we support online voting for this council, but if and when we do, we unanimously support the need for documentation of stakeholder status.
Sounds good.
All right, very good.
I'll second that language.